Welcome back to Second Sunday. We're doing a project right now which began as something called Friday Friends, which was imagined by Andy Lowry, who really came up with this cool idea for us to include people who are kind of either on the edges of Second Sunday or who have recently been involved or jumped in. And we wanted to platform them and show their lives and how cool their stories are, because we believe that we find our home in each other's stories. And Jonas reimagined this project. He gave it new life and kind of evolved it to be this beautiful thing we call reface or re:"face. And this is our response to the depth behind someone's face and everything they are and who they are and their identity that's genuinely inexhaustible. And also their response to the face of God and how that's played out throughout their life. So today I'm honored to sit down with Paul Smith, the legendary therapist from E3 Civic High School, and also the king of Verge, who has led us through our Verge series on racial reconciliation. And he is genuinely one of the most compelling individuals that I've had the privilege of knowing, and he's a brilliant conversationalist. And so you can never leave a room not feeling warmed and genuinely just compelled by his presence and who he is. So thanks so much for chilling with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's another good day. I mean, like living here in San Diego, I mean, who can complain? Great weather.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. I have heard legends that you are a Switchfoot fan.
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the most important question I'm going to ask you.
Oh.
So, as a Switchfoot fan, how'd you become a Switchfoot fan?
I know they have that the surfing competition all the time, like
Okay.
down, and then I was like, what is that all about? And then friends encouraged me to go out and try and check it out, and I was like, oh, and then there's music, and I was like, oh, there's a whole concert thing, and then you find out, like, yeah, these are good Christian guys just getting out there, just living life, like, in community, like, hey, we can do something with our talents, with our gifts. But when you mention, like, Switchfoot, I mean, there's, like, these experiences about listening to certain music and, like, lyrics, and it's things that, like, really impact you. So it's, like, one for me is, like, the sound.
Okay.
And it's just talking about how we can all come together and how we can all like be closer. But man, just amazing guitar, just like and I'm like, okay, this is amazing. But just the lyrics too.
Okay.
And it just hits you in the heart.
Yeah.
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 John Perkins said it right, love is the final fight.
Ooh, okay, sweet.
It's amazing. It's just like I'm in my car, I'm crying. Oh, hold it together because it's just an amazing song.
We've kind of joked that Jay should be a member of Switchfoot.
Every time I look at him, I see it, and I'm like, could you have been in that band at one point? Just like, I'm just going to sit in and I'll just take over. I'm like, okay. But yeah.
He fits in.
Totally fits.
So you always roll up to Verge on a motorcycle as well.
Yes.
What kind of led to that interest? Because I think you're unique in so many ways, including your taste for motorcycles. How did that roll? What happened to that?
Well, for motorcycles, it was really interesting. It's the final year, I think, during our graduate program, I had a colleague of mine. We were thinking about how we wanted to cement, our experience about our experience going through this education. It was like a tough go, and we decided like, hey, wouldn't it be really cool if we got motorcycles and on graduation we just ride off into the sunset?
Nice.
So it was just like that thing, but family-wise, my uncles and cousins, growing up, they were actually attached to like motorcycle clubs.
Okay, cool.
Maybe a little bit more on the balance of do I do the right thing or not do the right thing, but it's just like having that appreciation on one day saying, yeah, I want to ride one, and then just getting out there saying, this is a new stage in my life, and I think I want to kind of let's cement it with just something, a level of growth. So amazing freedom you get by riding a bike.
Right.
And you're just out there and you just the first time looking at the freeway and you look at the ground and you're like, wow, that's going by really fast and that's really close.
Yeah.
But it's just so liberating. And as you mentioned, being a therapist, using that and going down to like Mexico. So once you get on that road, close to the ocean, and it's just this amazing trek that you can take, and you just embrace just the amazing things that God's created, and you just look at it and you're just like, this is next level. It's like so beautiful, and it's just you, it's just like I'm free. I'm just flying on the road, within the speed limit.
As a driver of a Civic, I'm kind of jealous of that as far as that. And I don't know how many therapists ride motorcycles as well. Do you guys have like motorcycle gangs? Or is it just not?
No, I don't know very many, but just the idea of actually being out there, it's for me, it's been the most therapeutic thing that I can do. Because when you have a helmet on, not really many people can see what's going on, and then actually going through that experience of like going to Mexico, I usually do it like maybe once a month when it was open, would go down there and then think about all the things that happen, because I know that we carry a lot of weight when we talk to clients, and it could take its toll on you. But if I have my helmet on and I'm riding down that road and I'm just looking at how amazing, God has allowed us the opportunity to see things, it does evoke a lot of emotion, and then it's just kind of like that cathartic experience to just let it out. So sometimes within that helmet, there's been a lot of tears.
Okay.
But it's just that amazing space to say, I'm so grateful. God, I'm so thankful that you've allowed me this opportunity, and I can just not hold on to it. I can just see you and the beauty of, just somewhere else, and just like I'm on the road, it's me by myself, but I know you're there. And then there's a little space in Rosarito I can go, and they have like little camping areas, and just sitting on the sand and knowing like camping, and you look up at the stars, and like I know you, I know every star, and I love you more than this grains of sand on the beach, and you just feeling like there's a lot of grains of sand, but you love me more than that. It's just an amazing experience. But just doing that on the motorcycle, just getting away. But yeah, it's just an experience. Yeah.
Before you were a therapist at E3, so you're working with high school kids now.
Yes.
But before you did that, you worked in a prison.
Yes.
Doing therapy for prisoners.
Well, it was actually started with another church.
Okay.
And so there was a group, and I think it was called an Exodus group, to where we were working on things that we needed to kind of go through. I mean, leaving and going through that experience of, making it through the wilderness, and it's the 40 years that they spent. So everyone's gone through a lot. And then they said, hey, we have this group, maybe 5 weeks, and we want people to join to maybe go through these experiences that were really difficult. So at the end of the group, we had a number of people that said, hey, I'd like this group to keep going. And the actual pastor came into the room and he goes, yeah, and you're going to lead it. And I was like, yeah, I don't really know like how this works or what I'm doing. And he says, yeah, you'll do it. And then it actually progressed into something else, to where they wanted to do community outreach.
Okay.
And then individuals said they wanted to go feed the homeless. And then individuals said that we want to work with the military. And then one little small girl stood up and she goes, I want to go to prison. And I was like, okay, good for you. Like, I'm not going. But then going through that process, and then working in the prison at Donovan State Prison, and going in the first week we were there, they said, okay, you're going to go to that yard. And I was like, well, what's that yard, and why is no one over there? And he goes, well, because they need help. And I found out it's where the hole is, and those that have sensitive needs, those that individuals that no longer would like to be part of the gang population, they go there. So it was very complicated with the individuals that were there. So going there like every week, because this girl wanted to go, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of like the leader of the group, so I have to go. And then you get your access pass to go in. But then talking to the individuals that were there, I don't really like to refer them as like inmates or prisoners, they're just people. And then talking to them, I found out so much. They have the same concerns and desires that we all do, but by the choices or the things that happen to them and the system that we have, that's where they ended up. And it's just crazy. It's like one of the guards, I went in one day, I can remember vividly. He says, yeah, we need you to go to talk to him in that cell. And I was like, the only cells that are over there are the ones in the hole. And he goes, yes, and here's a flak jacket. And I was like, where did you bring me today? Is this what this is all about?
Yeah.
But then when I started to talk to him, the individual that was there, I found out he was a regular guy, and he just wanted someone to talk to. And I was like, man, this is crazy. But it was just being available, putting myself in that position to say I wanted to work with people, and just trusting God to say, okay, we'll go. And the individual that was there, he just spoke of a letter he wanted his girlfriend to read, and then we talked about it, and he was like, yeah, I wasn't very honest. And then he started crying. He started to go through this process about kind of letting things go, and it's just to have someone to talk to. And I would come in and I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to change people. And I'm like, no, that's prayer. No, that's God. And that's just the opportunity to be able to be available for someone. And someone thinks like, oh, no, they're not worth it. But it was just, yeah. And I was kind of like, yeah, I really don't need this flak jacket. Because if you're genuine and you're honest with someone and you're present, then they find this amazing space that they can actually be vulnerable. And that's what I just love to see, especially being in a cell, thinking like this could be very difficult or this could be very dangerous. And looking back at the guards, and I was kind of like, man, I felt kind of bad for them, because it's like they at times aren't able to get those relationships because there's some type of manipulation sometimes that happens in there. But when you can talk to someone on a genuine level, then you can meet them and you can say, I see you where you are, it's okay.
That's one of the things you said at Verge that stuck with me the most, was the idea of running into the burning building and kind of taking the risk, that jumping into that place of risk, that place of danger, is the most worthwhile thing to do, to kind of face your fears and find out that they have no power over you.
Right.
And so moving from that into E3 is an incredibly diverse population of students in East Village. And you also, I found out, moved purposefully to Santee.
Yeah.
Of all places.
Yeah.
Which recently, there was a dude who walked into a Vaughn's with a KKK hat on.
Yeah.
So what went behind that decision to move to Santee? Where did that come from?
The burning building. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's like, okay, and being stretched.
Yeah.
Wanting to grow.
Okay.
And then not wanting to be too comfortable. Because I know that at times when we're in spaces where, I don't know, life just says to you, like, if you're too comfortable, then you don't move and you don't like gain anything. But working with the kids in the school and then moving up to Santee, I was living maybe a couple blocks from SDSU, and it was just nice house. I was like, okay, this is fine, and it was comforting. It was like a lot of things going on, and you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. And it just got to that point where I said, well, I want to buy a house.
Yeah.
And I need to own something. And I thought about moving to certain areas, and the real estate agents were taking me certain places. I'm like, no, that doesn't fit. And then just praying in 2 days, and I got an interest to just look things up online. And then I just found a place in Santee, and I remember if you would have asked me like 8 years ago, like, would you move to Santee? And then I was just like, no, I am never gonna move there. And I just was just like a little kind of concerned because of the history. And as you mentioned, the individual at the grocery store with the KKK hat on, there was another one in another grocery store, and he had like the mask on and it had the swastika on it. And I was like, okay. But in order to like grow and face the fears that you have to kind of do things that are going to push you to a space to where you're gonna grow if you want to or not. And it's just like sometimes talking to people that are there to think, man, maybe they don't like the stereotype that's been placed on the city. Maybe they just want someone to kind of come into their life to kind of just maybe level the playing field to some extent. And I by no means think it's me, but if it's just like God could say, like, I want to use you in that sense. And maybe you have to take some lumps. It's like, well, okay, without any, work, there can be no progress. It's like that John Lewis saying, got to get into good trouble.
Yeah.
And then
so good.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to, and it's just finding out from relatives of mine in the past that were, like one of the original individuals that were involved in the voter rights, things that went on in like Mississippi, and then I find out and start talking to my mom. It's like, yeah, that's your uncle, and it's like, here's his book,
Okay.
and it's Dr. Gilbert Mason, and he did all this in Mississippi, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, yeah, but I think it's kind of a DNA thing to some extent, but then you can't take what someone else has as your life. You just have to go, okay, that's possible, and then just to go there and just think, well, God, I'm going to trust you on this one.
Yeah.
And then just to go with it, because it's just work, and as far as like being present with that work that may be involved. And every day you get up and you're like, all right, where's he going to take me today? So it's just living there. My neighbors are very unique. They're different. And it's at times I walk out and I'm thinking like, is something going to happen today? And then you're just like, okay. And you're like, well, did you do everything you were supposed to? You know, are you emptying your cup? Are you sharing with everyone? And then that's a big thing about sharing with people. And on a side note, it's like so encouraged by how Pastor Jay, what he does with our community.
Yeah.
Because up there, I think that there's an idea of people just wanting to stay with the status quo.
Right.
Because I've been up there for 2 years, and there are a number of churches that I've been to, and it's just like, no, if we say too much against and go in a different direction, we're gonna lose half a member. And I'm like, man, that's not the way the gospel's supposed to be shared.
Right.
And that's painful because it's like kind of really abusing, what love actually is. And that's hard, but hopefully, can kind of share more up there or just be, a different experience for other people.
Yeah.
So it's good.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you've worked in prisons, you've worked in high school. What is kind of the key thing or a big thing that you've learned that you could pass on to us from being in the business of knowing people, being there for people? Is there something you've discovered?
I would say just being honest with yourself, knowing yourself the most. That's a big thing because you have to know, like, if you're going to be afraid to go in and to do that, you may want to just take it a little slowly. But if you want to really jump in, like cliff divers, I mean, they're going for it. Or, like we had, 9/11 anniversary just recently, and then just thinking about all those individuals that ran into those buildings with no regard of like, okay, what am I going to see? Am I going to make it out? It's just, I'm here. This is what I've been called to do. And we think about those terms like, what's my calling? What's my vocation? And that's just basically what I think a lot of us, we kind of lose by not taking that step. But it's just knowing yourself first. It's like, how can I be a better person? How can I do something that's going to be a bit more impactful? I have to be able to do it. I have to be able to trust God. And just to go in, just go. But if you're dealing with a lot of things that are going to, keep you from doing that, you have to, I would do a lot of praying. I would do a lot of soul searching to say, like, what privileges and advantages do I have? Well, others have given up more. It's just that experience.
And you grew up in California. And I imagine I've heard, different intimations and glimpses into that. But was there a period of your childhood that was like deeply formative for who you are today? Because you were one of 19 children. 22? 22? Did I get
19 on my dad's side, and then I have 3 other brothers, which were really close. The brothers and sisters on my dad's side, those 19, I've met a number of them, and we've had like close connections, but not super close, like my brothers. Like they're like, okay, yeah, I know you. But as far as like an experience that totally changed my view and my idea, I was afforded the opportunity to go live with my grandma.
Okay.
My grandma lives in France. Oh. So going there and going to school, like I had a total different idea or just exposure to what life was like.
And what age was this?
I was like in 8th grade.
Okay, cool.
So I was just like, okay, I'm trying to figure this out. But it was so amazing to live somewhere where the struggles that we have now today in the US with race relations, to live there and to go into school. And I remember signing like the paperwork with my grandma, and it asked for nationality. And so sometimes here we kind of identify nationality with a race. So I put Negro. And I've never seen a man so angry in his life that he was just in a school, and he looked at me, put his hand on the table, and he goes, "We will not have that in my school." And I was like, "What did I do wrong?" And he goes, "That's not what it is. you're from the United States.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, you don't really want to know my race. It doesn't really matter. And I was like, oh, I can just be me.
Dude, why haven't we got to that point?
Yeah, it's growth.
Yeah.
And it's just being okay with people in life. So it's just, I think it's just an amazing experience about being able to just be you and know you and just be okay.
Yeah.
So that was just an amazing experience about just like, wow, I'm good about me and I'm enough. And so just kind of listening to Switchfoot, just going to concerts and doing just all these different things. It's like, no, there's no barriers for me.
Okay.
I can go anywhere I want. I can move to Santee. I have the freedom to do that. I have the freedom to just be me.
Dang, okay. That's cool. That's kind of what life is about. The freedom to be you.
Absolutely.
And you are an avid follower of Jesus.
Yes.
What captivates you most about Jesus? Is it part of the ability to be who you were created to be?
And that light and to be able to follow and to be able to understand, like, you did so much and many people didn't appreciate you while you were here. And it's just so many different things. It's like walking on water, telling Peter come out. People say, oh, you can't walk on water, only Jesus did that. It's like, no, Peter did too. Yeah. But it's just that ability to say, I want you to do more. Because at the end, he said, you're going to do greater things. And it's just that perspective for us to say, I can if I just want to do it. So just going in different environments and just saying, no, I'm going to try it. So who knows what will happen in Santee? Who knows what will happen in, I remember when I was growing up at the end of the military, in Fallbrook, that used to be Dan Metzger's place. And it was just rough, and it was just so many different places, but who knows? But just getting out there, doing it, and not being afraid, running into the burning building.
Yeah.
Just, I'm gonna save many people. I'm probably gonna see some things that I'm not really super comfortable with. There may be like parts here, and it could be really, really difficult. But it's just saying, use me, just let me go out and do it.
The risk of being who you are.
Yeah, because that's what we're called to do. It's like what our calling is, our vocation. People say that's what our job is. No, that's what you're designed to do.
Ooh, that's so good. Dude, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I hope to see you soon.
We will.
Cool.
All right.